Story 1. The Return Policy. It is 2 a.m. on Christmas Eve. I am watching through the slats of the closet door. The living room is bleeding red light from the Christmas tree. My dad is on his knees in the center of the rug, wrestling with a shape wrapped in festive reindeer paper. My little brother Toby is inside. He is screaming, but the sound is wet, like he is screaming underwater. Dad grabs a roll of silver duct tape. He wraps it tight around the top of the package, right where the head should be. The screaming stops instantly. My mom walks in from the kitchen holding a glass of eggnog. She steps over the package like it is a bag of trash. She stares at the silence on the floor. "Label is on," she says. Her voice is dead flat. "Put him in the pile." He was leaking on the carpet. Dad wipes sweat from his forehead. "I don't know if they will take him," he grunts. "I might have voided the warranty when I dropped him down the stairs." Mom sips her drink. "We have to try. He was defective. The manual said this model was low maintenance, but he wouldn't stop crying." My hand clamps over my mouth so hard my teeth ache. They aren't talking about a toy. They are talking about Toby. Mom tilts her head toward the hallway, toward me. "What about the other one?" Dad stands up and brushes glitter off his pants. "Sam?" He is barely passing inspection. His grades are slipping and he is starting to ask questions. I think his cognitive drive is overheating. We should exchange him while we are at the post office. Save the trip. My heart hammers against my ribs with a mechanical, rhythmic thud. I am not a person to them. I am an appliance, and my warranty just expired. They walk into the garage. The heavy door slams shut. I have 30 seconds. I scramble into the living room. The air is unnaturally cold. On the coffee table sits the book, North Pole Biotech, Generation 4 catalog. I open it with shaking hands. It is not a toy catalog. It is a catalog of kids. Page after page of high-resolution photos, symmetrical faces, blue eyes, smiling with straight white teeth. Under each photo are specs: IQ level, obedience rating, sleep mode duration. I flip to the clearance section, and there I am. Model 12B. Discontinued reason. Obedience glitch. Dispose immediately. The room spins. The family photos on the wall aren't memories. They are proof of purchase. A soft, wet click sounds behind me. I spin around. My little sister Lily is standing by the tree. She is wearing her pink pajamas. She isn't blinking. Her eyes are wide open, dry as parchment. "Sam," she says. Her voice is too clear, too digital. "You were out of bed during sleep mode. Protocol violation." "Lily," I whisper, "we have to run. Mom and Dad are going to hurt us." She tilts her head. Her jaw unhinges slightly, hanging loose on one side like a broken hinge. "Run?" she repeats. "Why would I run? I am the upgrade." Her lips stretch until the skin on her cheeks tears open. Underneath the skin is not muscle. It is white, polished plastic and pulsing wires. "Mom! Dad!" Lily screams. It is a siren, a high-pitched mechanical wail that drills into my ears. "Defect located, defect located." The garage door crashes open. Dad storms in with a crowbar. Mom follows with a roll of garbage bags. "Grab him," Mom says. I bolt for the front door. I grab the handle and pull. It snaps off in my hand. It is made of painted cardboard. I look at the window. It is just a high-definition screen playing a video of falling snow. This isn't a house. It is a containment unit. Dad's hand clamps onto my shoulder. I feel my collarbone snap. There is no pain. It's just a structural integrity warning flashing in my mind. "Don't struggle, Sammy," Dad whispers. His breath smells like ozone and burnt rubber. The new one is already in the chimney. We need to clear the floor space. He drags me backward. No, please, I scream. I'll be good. I'll eat my vegetables. That is just the programming talking, Mom says. She opens the black garbage bag. It is a shame. He really did have a nice smile. Dad drags me to the fireplace. The interior is pitch black, a massive tunnel dropping into the earth. Merry Christmas, kiddo, Dad says. He shoves me inside. I don't go up. I fall down. I slide down a slick metal chute for miles. I hit the bottom and land on a hard metal grate. I look up. I am in a warehouse the size of a city. The air smells like oil and burning hair. I am on a conveyor belt. Ahead of me are hundreds of other kids, other Sams, other Tobys. Some are broken, some are just staring blankly ahead. Massive robotic arms hang from the ceiling, picking kids off the line and dropping them into a grinder. High above, inside a glass observation deck, a man is watching us. He has a white beard and a red suit, but he isn't jolly. He looks like a CEO watching the stock market crash. He presses a button on his desk. The conveyor belt speeds up. I am moving toward the grinder. I look down at my hand. The skin on my wrist has peeled back from the fall. I don't bleed. I just spark. My return period expired at midnight. I just hope the kid they replace me with lasts longer than I did. Story 2. The Snowman in the Yard. The blizzard hit around 6 p.m. It buried the driveway and killed the cell reception. I was trapped in the Miller family's glass box cabin deep in the mountains. I was in the kitchen making tea when I saw him. Standing in the middle of the backyard, right under the floodlight, was a snowman. It wasn't cute. It was lumpen and deformed, like someone had packed the snow together in a panic. It didn't have a hat or a scarf. It just had 2 jagged pieces of coal for eyes. I stared at it. I didn't remember seeing it there when I arrived. I looked down to grab a spoon. I looked up. The mug slipped from my hand and shattered on the floor. The snowman had moved. He wasn't in the middle of the yard anymore. He was 10 feet closer. He was standing right at the edge of the patio. I didn't freeze. I didn't try to convince myself it was a prank. I ran to the back door and checked the lock. It was tight. I checked the front door. Dead-bolted. I grabbed the largest knife from the butcher block. My lungs burned. I hadn't exhaled in a minute. Snow doesn't move. I forced myself to look out the window again. He was gone. Thump. A heavy, wet sound hit the glass right in front of my face. He hadn't fallen over. He was pressing his face against the glass. But he wasn't alone anymore. The floodlight cut through the dark yard. There were dozens of them. 50, maybe 100 snowmen. They stood in perfect rows, all facing the house. They had no expressions. Just those black, jagged eyes staring at me, and they were all moving. Not walking, they were sliding. Inch by inch, like glaciers, they were closing in on the house. The glass in the living room cracked. It wasn't a shatter. It sounded like wet clay being pushed through a strainer. I ran into the living room. The lead snowman was pushing himself through the fractured window. His body didn't crumble. It deformed. He squeezed through the frame like thick white paste. He flopped onto the carpet with a wet thud. He began to reform, standing up taller than a man. The electric lights hummed overhead, illuminating every deformity in his white surface. "Get back," I screamed. I lunged forward and drove the knife deep into his chest. I expected the blade to crunch into ice. Instead, it squelched. The knife sank into something soft and dense. Hot, red liquid sprayed out of the snow. It splashed onto my face. It tasted metallic. He didn't make a sound, he just raised a heavy white arm and backhanded me. It felt like being hit with a bag of cement. I flew across the room and landed near the fireplace. The impact knocked the wind out of me. I looked up. The fire was roaring in the hearth. The heat hit the snowman. He stopped moving. He began to slough off. The white snow started to drip away, revealing what was hidden underneath. It wasn't sticks and carrots. First, I saw a patch of gray, frozen human skin. Then, a denim jacket. Then, a face. It was a man. His mouth was sewn shut with fishing line. His skin was blue and covered in frostbite. His eyes were missing, replaced by the jagged coal I had seen earlier. I recognized him. The missing hiker from the posters in town. The snow continued to melt off his legs. He wasn't walking. His ankles were bound together with wire. He was being moved like a puppet. Behind him, through the broken window, the other snowmen were entering. They were all melting in the heat of the house. A woman in a ski jacket, a teenager in a hoodie, an old man. They were all dead. Their bodies were perfectly preserved in the ice, encased in snow to keep them fresh. The thing inside the first corpse leaned down toward me. The mouth stitches tore open with a wet rip. "The ice," it gargled, a voice that sounded like slush moving down a drain. "It preserves the flavor."
Story 3. The Naughty List. I hacked my dad's laptop to see what he got me for Christmas. I didn't find a receipt for a PlayStation. I found a spreadsheet named the Naughty List. It was thousands of rows long. Names, addresses, and a column labeled SGen. Sarah Miller, age 7. Sin, hit her brother. Penalty, Cole. I scrolled down. I stopped laughing. Row 402. Jimmy Vance, age 12. Sin, shoplifting. Penalty, Harvest. Jimmy was my best friend. He went missing 3 days ago. The police said he ran away. The date next to his name was the night he vanished. The front door upstairs slammed shut. Heavy boots stomped across the hardwood. My heart stopped. Dad wasn't supposed to be home until the mall closed at 9. I heard him humming. A slow, deep baritone. "You better watch out. You better not cry." I couldn't go upstairs. I slipped out of the office and crept toward the basement. Dad always kept the workshop locked. But tonight, the door was ajar. A slice of red light spilled onto the hallway floor. I pushed it open. The smell hit me instantly. It didn't smell like sawdust. It smelled like a butcher shop that had lost power for a week. Iron, rust, rotting meat masked by a heavy layer of industrial bleach. I walked down. There were no toys. Hanging from the ceiling on meat hooks were the Santa suits. But they weren't red velvet. They were leather. Heavy, thick aprons stained a dark, crusty brown. I walked deeper into the room. On the workbench, a tanning rack was stretched tight. The leather pinned to it wasn't cowhide. It was pale and freckled. In the center was a temporary tattoo of a ninja turtle. I clamped my hand over my mouth to stop the scream. Jimmy had that tattoo on his arm on Tuesday. "Leo?" The voice boomed from the shadows. Dad was standing by the furnace. He was wearing his suit, but the jacket was off. His white undershirt was soaked in sweat. He was dragging a massive burlap sack behind him. The sack was writhing. Something inside was kicking and whimpering. "You shouldn't be down here, son," Dad said. His voice was calm. "You are on the nice list." "You killed Jimmy," I whispered. I backed up until my legs hit the workbench. "Dad, that is Jimmy's skin." Dad laughed. It wasn't an evil laugh. It sounded tired. "Hollow. I didn't kill Jimmy, and I am not the monster. I am just the delivery guy." He dragged the sack toward the center of the room. There was a large, circular iron grate in the floor. It looked like a sewer cover, welded shut with heavy chains. "Santa isn't a man, Leo," Dad said, unhooking the chains. "Santa is an appetite. He sleeps for 364 days. But on Christmas Eve he wakes up, and he needs meat." Dad hauled the grate open. A blast of hot, sulfurous air shot up from the hole. From the darkness of the pit, I heard a sound. Click, click, click. Like giant mandibles snapping together. A massive hand reached up from the blackness. It was gray, covered in coarse hair, and tipped with 4-inch black talons. It grabbed the edge of the concrete floor, gouging deep scratches into the stone. "He is hungry, Leo." Dad lifted the sack. The kid inside screamed. Let me go? Dad looked at me. Tears welled in his eyes. If we don't feed him the naughty ones, he comes up. And he takes the whole town. He takes the nice ones too. He takes you. The thing in the pit roared. The tools rattled on the workbench. Dad buckled under the weight of the sack. Help me, please. It is too heavy. I looked at the sack. Then I looked at the monster's hand reaching blindly for food. I didn't want to help. I wanted to run. But the thing was already pulling itself up. I saw a second hand grip the ledge. I walked forward. I was crying. I could taste the bile in my throat. I grabbed the bottom of the sack. I could feel the kid's shoulder through the burlap. He was trembling. Please, I whispered to God. Please forgive me. We swung the sack over the edge. The screaming stopped as it disappeared into the dark. There was a wet crunch, then the sound of tearing. The growling subsided. The hand slipped back down into the shadows. Dad fell to his knees. He didn't look relieved. He looked like he was deflating. He reached up and grabbed his own neck. He pulled. His skin split down the center of his chest. He peeled his own face back like a hood. Underneath, there was no blood, no muscle, just a raw, skeletal frame wrapped in wet, pulsing red muscle. The suit is wearing out. Leo, the raw thing whispered. I need a new one for next year. He pointed a bony finger at the tanning rack. At Jimmy's skin. Son, we have a long night ahead of us. Story 4. The Star in the East. It is 11:55 p.m. on Christmas Eve. We are driving through the Blackwood National Forest. The radio is dead. It isn't playing carols. It is playing a loop of a sound that resembles a choir screaming underwater. I look out the window. Above the tree line, something is hovering. It is not a star. It is a tear in the sky, pulsing with violent violets and radioactive greens. We pass the Miller farmhouse. The front door is wide open. The lights are blazing. Through the window, I see their Christmas dinner set on the table. Turkey, wine, candles. But the chairs are empty. It isn't the rapture. The people didn't go up. They just dissolved. Dad slams on the brakes. We are at the old stone chapel. The church is glowing from the inside. Blinding white light pours out of the stained glass windows, cracking the glass from the pressure. The heavy oak doors have been blown off their hinges. The sound is louder here. It vibrates in my teeth. Mom unbuckles her seatbelt. Her eyes are wide and glassy. She stumbles out of the car. Dad follows her. Mom, I yell. She doesn't hear me. She walks toward the light like a moth. I run after them. The heat hits me first. It isn't hot like fire. It is hot like radiation. It tastes like copper on my tongue. We walk through the broken doors. The pews are full. The entire town is here. The Millers, the sheriff. They are sitting perfectly still, hands folded in their laps. They are all looking up at the ceiling. Their eyes are gone. Not plucked out. Burned out. The sockets are two black, charred holes in their faces. But they are all smiling. The roof of the church has been torn open. Floating above the altar is a geometry of terror. Massive, spinning rings covered in thousands of weeping eyes. Wings made of fire and glass that fold and unfold in impossible shapes. The sound isn't a choir. It is the friction of the thing's existence rubbing against our reality. My dad walks toward the altar. He is crying tears of blood. Take me, he begs. He reaches out to touch the lowest ring of fire. As his finger grazes it, he doesn't burn. He unravels. It starts at his hand. His skin peels away in long, glowing ribbons of light. Then his muscle. Then his bone. He unspools like a loose thread on a sweater. He doesn't scream. He looks ecstatic. In seconds, my father is gone. He is just dust floating in the holy light. The entity stops spinning. All thousand eyes rotate at once. They lock onto me. The pressure in my skull is unbearable. I feel my mind cracking. There is no voice. No English words. Just a command stamped directly onto my frontal lobe. Harold. A beam of light shoots from the creature and hits me in the chest. It doesn't kill me. It fills me. I feel cold, burning power flood my veins. I turn and run. I scramble back to the car, vomit on the pavement, and slam the door. I peel out of the lot, tires screeching. I drive for an hour, doing 100 miles an hour. I finally reach the highway. I see the city skyline ahead. The safety of the skyscrapers. The comfort of millions of people. I look in the rearview mirror to check if it followed me. The sky is empty. The star is gone. I let out a sob of relief. I slow the car down. I reach over and turn the radio back on, hoping for news. The screaming loop is gone. A synthesized, calm voice speaks. Arrival confirmed. Herald located within population center. Begin purge. I freeze. I look down at my hands on the steering wheel. They are starting to glow. A violent, radioactive violet light is leaking from my pores. I look up at the city skyline. The lights of the first skyscraper flicker and die. Then the next. Then the next. I didn't escape the star. I am the star.